shut the door because I don't want my flatmate to hear me making a really, sorry, I'm moving and stuff, making a really cringy YouTube video, even though he has access to, oh fuck, I just turned my PlayStation on. He has access to my channel anyway. He found my old channel, which was embarrassing as fuck. My PlayStation just turned on, so that's fun. But if I play YouTube music in the background to stop my flatmate hearing, I'm gonna get copyrighted, so let's not do that. But yeah, so I thought I'd make a YouTube video on my experience at uni, living 120 miles or so away from my family. And yeah, so I guess let's get started. Okay, so little introduction for a start. I'm Frankie, and I am a second year biochemistry student living a good 120 miles away from my family. I spent my first year in halls, and now I live in a shared house with 3 other people. So that's a little introduction. Okay, so next thing is making friends. Don't expect to stay friends with the first people you meet at uni. It does happen sometimes, but a lot of the time it doesn't. And so I didn't. I lost my first friendship group through a lot of my own fault, I will admit that, but I think there was some blame on either side. I am now friends with a couple of people from that friendship group still, but one person in particular I will never speak to again. I absolutely despise them, to be honest with you. So yeah, making friends can be really, really difficult, especially if you're autistic like me. But one thing I found is neurodivergents typically do all gravitate together, and that's what happened in my case. I went up to some people in October in a lecture, one of which had said they liked my hair like the first week in. So I recognised them and I thought, oh, they were really nice to me, I'll go up to them. They were sat with this other person. So we sat and we chatted during the lecture about D&D because I really wanted to join a campaign, but I'd never played D&D before, and since then my girlfriend set up a campaign that we've been doing for over a year now. So yeah, so I got along really well with them, and I thought they were like friends from sixth form or something. They'd known each other a solid week, which was quite funny, and the friendship group just kind of evolved, and now I've got a group of really nice friends. And yeah, so that was really nice, and I currently live with one of them now, and should be living with them next year as well, which is nice because I'm not the easiest person to live with. But yeah, so making friends can be quite difficult, but when you do, it is great. So that's kind of all I have to say on that side of things. Okay, the next thing is like finding a place to live. So if you're a first year, my recommendation is that you go into halls because you don't know anybody. It's a scary time, so I moved into halls my first year. I made friends there, but those, unfortunately, a lot of them are the friends that I lost, but I did keep a few friends from halls, and again, somebody I met who lived in my halls is now living with me. So he's like the second person out of 3. So a lot of people will tell you after halls that finding a house, like you have to find a house by December, because if you don't find a house by December, like all the good houses will have gone, all the ones with good prices will have gone. It's not true. It's not true. We, I think, signed our contract in like March, April. So me and my course mate, the one that I met a little while ago, one of like the one I sat with in lectures, the other person wanted to stay in halls, so we just respected that, but me and this person decided we were going to move in together. So all we needed to do was find 2 more people. We found 2 more, who then both dropped out in January, so we were like panicking, like, oh my god, we need to find people. So I went viciously searching on Facebook, and we found 2 people on Facebook who were sixth form friends. And this is how we came to know that this one guy had actually lived in the same halls as me. So we got along pretty well, and yeah, so we were all ready to sign the contract. We signed it, and then this one girl, she dropped out in like March, which made us really, really panic. And so the guy who was lead tenant, the one from my halls, he went on Facebook and he found a placement student. And this guy was really like up for living with us, and it was great. And he turned out to be from the same city as me, which was really cool. I was like, oh, whereabouts are you from in said city? And he was like, oh, I'm from here. And I was like, oh, I'm like 20 minutes away from that. That's really cool. And so, yeah, we sorted it, we signed the contract, and here we are in our lovely little home. And I've really settled in here. My home life back at home was not great, so I really see this house as being my home. So yeah, so don't stress about it too much with getting a house, because it is what it is. Yeah, okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the course itself and exams. So my course is difficult. Like, it has really been hard. And first year I had so much going on, it was really hard to revise for exams, but exams that year were MCQs, multiple choice questions, so they ended up not being too bad, apart from my chemistry exam. It was the only one that was closed book, and my god, yeah. So I failed one of my modules, I failed the chemistry one, but because I did so well in all my others, they were like, whatever, we're just gonna let you in the second year. And so now second year is a lot more full on, it's a lot more difficult, but you do just kind of have to get a grasp on things, and it is okay to do things last minute. As much as they'll tell you don't do that, the amount of times I've done that, I can't judge. So yeah, doing that is not necessarily a bad thing all the time. I've gotten some pretty solid grades doing that. And also the fact is a lot of the time, the things you hate writing about the most, you tend to work harder on. So do expect that when you're really enjoying a topic, you might actually get a lower grade. At least that's how it's been for me. Group revision is so important. We have a Discord chat where we all meet up and we help each other out with stuff that we don't understand, with assignments. We sit and we do like we have a statistics test to do, and we'll sit and do that together and help each other out, because we are allowed to do that. So you do have to check the rules a little bit, but for some like assignments, you are allowed to help each other. I know we had a critical analysis of a scientific report to do, and we all had different reports, so we just kind of helped each other out, proofread each other's work, and it worked really well. For me, I don't really like working in the library. I actually quite like working, sounds really weird, but in the pub, because when you work in the pub, you can have like a half pint, and it really kind of buzzes you into doing the work, and that's worked really effectively for me. When I did my critical analysis essay, I did that in the pub and I ended up getting a 2-1, so I find that really works for me. But equally, as I said, when I've done stuff last minute, the last thing I did last minute and absolutely hated, I got first. So it is odd, but it happens. Yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say about exams and that. I'm trying to think of like other topics to bring up, really. I think there's one more thing I want to talk about. So the final thing is about finding a job. Now, the uni I go to is an on-campus uni, which if you're really wanting to be financially independent, I think, okay, actually, side note, this is not going to be the last thing because I've just like thought of it. So I would recommend, if you want to be financially independent, going to an on-campus uni, because they tend to have on-campus jobs. And that's how I got my job. I've been working there for over a year now, I think. When did I start? It'll be 2 years this October. And I worked there for about 8 months, and then I became a supervisor, so my pay is a lot better now. And I actually have work in 2 hours, so that's fun. But yeah, and it means that the hours fit around your timetable because you choose your own shifts, which I have found really, really helpful. If your uni is not an on-campus uni like mine, definitely go and look in like the town centre, find 0-hour contracts because they are really good for uni students, because you can pick your shifts pretty much. And I think that really helps. I've got a few people that work in the town we live in rather than on campus. But yeah, so find something that you enjoy, something that pays you well enough, and don't be afraid, if you can, to lean on your family for a bit of financial support. I am probably 80% financially independent, but I'm not completely financially independent. I think the only thing my parents pay for that I know of is my phone, but I pay the monthly things. So I pay for the SIM, they pay for the contract, I think, something like that. But yeah, but it is important to get like a work to life balance, because especially with your studies, you've got to find enough balance of studying, working, and having your own free time where you do whatever you want. So I like to relax by gaming, reading, or just like going out somewhere with my friends. Just, me and my flatmate who's on the same course, we're probably the closest to in the house. We often just sit downstairs and watch TV. I've offered to have a group games night. We had a Jackbox night with some of our friends over Discord, which was really lovely. So things like that, yeah, they really help out. The final thing is how I cope with the distance between me and my family, and how I travel home, how often I travel home, and this is going to vary from person to person. So I personally get the coach home, which does take about 8 hours, but that's because it is so much cheaper than a train. So the next time I'm getting a coach home is the 24th of March. It's currently, I think, the 13th. Yeah. So that's when I'll be travelling home. I might do a little like vloggy type thing of me heading home, to like show what the journey's like and what I do to keep myself entertained. And yeah, my flatmate doesn't live that far from home, so he just gets a train quite easily because it doesn't cost him much. And the one that's from the same city as me can drive, so he'll just drive home. But for me, I don't own a car, I don't have enough money for a train, so I get a coach. I personally don't go home that often, so I will go home. I didn't go home over Christmas this year. I decided to have a quiet Christmas with just me and my girlfriend in this house. And that was really nice because we got to have Christmas independent of our parents, get used to what we want our Christmas traditions to be. So instead of a Christmas movie, we watched the Doctor Who Christmas specials, and I found that great because we're both a bit nerdy. So making your own like new traditions when you move away is brilliant. And also the expectation of you having to move back home once you graduate is not true. I'm most likely, if I can avoid it, I will. I'm not going to move back home. I have a pretty rocky relationship with a certain few members of my family, and so that made my home life really difficult. And my hometown, I don't have good memories that I associate with it, so I don't really think I got the feeling of being homesick, and so it was quite easy for me to deal with. But if you are feeling homesick, I would say going home can help, but you're obviously not going to be able to do that all the time, and if you live far away like I do, it's even worse. So FaceTime is a great thing, phone calls are a great thing. I think I talk to my parents more over the phone now than I did when I actually lived with them, which is quite funny. But yeah, so that's probably my advice. But most of all, just enjoy uni. And if you don't enjoy uni, it is perfectly valid to drop out. It's not for everyone. Yeah, so that's kind of my experience, and hopefully I'll make another video soon, maybe. We'll see how things go.